Mama. Get the rope. Atlas, get it. Get the rope, boy. Get the rope. Get the rope. Easy, boys. Easy. Okay, this is part 2 of the aftermath of the fire we had. That motorhome, 34-foot motorhome, was parked right where that van is. Right there. Motorhome parked right there. We had some AstroTurf right alongside here for about 20 feet. The dog kennels were right here where those trash bags and stuff are. And I initially started a fire right here on this root. I was trying to burn this root on this side. So it was 15-20 feet away from the motorhome. That BMW was parked right here, pretty close to this ash pile right here. We had a fire going right here, and then I took some of the pieces of burning wood here and I put it under the stump. You see a piece right there. And I was burning the stump before I went to bed. And it was about, I think it was like 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. I went to bed because I was really tired I was working out here all day. So, yeah, that motorhome was parked right where the van is. Carpet in the AstroTurf on the ground. We had our awning out of the motorhome. Dog kennels right there where that chain link fence is. Okay, BMW about right here. First fire pit was right here. Started to burn this stump. The wind was blowing in that direction, which is west. There's see that big log pile right there? Ours was like twice that size. And it went from here, where the outskirts of the burn is, all the way down here, which is about 55 feet long. I was just judging it by the length of the motorhome in this area, which is 34 foot long. So I think this was about 55 feet. This whole wood pile. And it's about 25 feet wide. So I went to bed. This thing was burning on this side. This stump right here was burning. Now right on the other side of this stump was a bunch of little branches like this stuff right here. But it was piled up about maybe 4 feet high right in this area. This whole area was, this first area was just little branches like that. The rest of that whole fire area was like big, you know, branches and logs like that, even bigger. I think I have a video of what this wood pile looked like before. But anyways, I went to bed. My wife was already sleeping. And this was like about maybe 1 a.m. I think. At about 2:15 a.m., my wife woke me up out of a dead sleep, saying there's a huge fire outside. And I didn't even know what was going on. Like I said, she just woke me up out of a dead sleep. I just jumped up, I ran, I opened the door of the motorhome, which is on the other side of the motorhome, because we had the motorhome facing towards me, like that's west over there. We had, the motorhome was facing south, so the opposite way it is now. That left the awning and the front door, like where the van is right there, facing this way. I opened that door up, and man, this fire, those branches right there are a good 20 feet, right? Those branches right there. That fire was all the way up there. And then the shoot off of the flames even went up higher. So it was probably about 30 feet high. I couldn't believe it. It sounded like a raging forest fire with all the air and burning. So I immediately, the dogs were right here. I immediately let them out of the cage because I had them locked up in the kennels. And I pulled their kennels over there in that area. We started getting the motorhome, put the awning, I couldn't even get the awning up. So I drove the motorhome way down the road over here. I took the BMW and I moved it over there too. The van I just put over there, backed it down there's a little path down there, I backed it down. We started pulling everything, because this is like our campsite right here. We started pulling everything away from where, because the fire got all the way to here. As a matter of fact, these stumps were like 10 feet up in the air because they were on top of, you know, like I said, a big old wood pile like that. Some of these stumps were like high in the air, and now they're all on the ground. My wife called the fire department. It took them like a half hour to get out here because this is like a remote location, as you can see. There's hardly anything around. There's nothing around. There's no electricity or water or anything. We're gonna get a pump. We're gonna get a well dug here though. They said they're a month behind, so I think I got a couple more weeks. They're gonna come out and drill us a well. And we use a generator for electricity for right now. Might get some solar. But yeah, the fire department took them like a half hour. The guy looked at it. He had like an old fire truck, and he told me, He goes, that fire is way too hot and that wood is way too dry. He said he would never be able to put it out with the amount of water he has in that truck, even though it looked like it had quite a bit. But he said, on the other hand, he goes, you got the wind going in that direction, which is good. The only thing he was worried about was if the wind changed, and then this area here has a lot of like dead high brush. There's a lot of green in there too, but he said that could catch on fire, but it's downhill. That's about a 22-degree slope, so it's pretty steep. So he wasn't too concerned. The wind was blowing so hard that it didn't really, I mean, I don't know if this tree's dead. Hopefully it's not dead, because it's a pretty big tree. I like this tree. But the wind was blowing in this direction, so it kept, otherwise this tree would have just burnt to the ground. But since the wind was so strong going in that direction, it just burnt, you know, it just burnt this whole wood pile down right here. He said, so he didn't really want to waste the water, because he said he didn't think he could put it out because it was too big. And then on the other hand, he said, all you have here is a big old twig fire. That's what he called it, a twig fire. I mean, we're from California and they have a lot of brush fires out there. And, you know, I've dealt with, you know, being in areas where, you know, the countryside was on fire. But out here, I guess it's not a big deal. He said it's 3 o'clock. By the time it was like 3 o'clock in the morning when he said this. He said, well, the dew point is out now, so it's kind of damp out. So you got that going for you. He goes, you don't even need a permit to do these kind of fires. I knew you didn't need a permit to burn, but you're supposed to use caution. And I guess they just light these things up at 2, 3 in the morning sometimes, preferably after it rained. But I had no intentions on doing that. This was totally an accident, just trying to burn. I was going to burn little by little. I had no idea. The wind wasn't blowing when I went to bed, so it was calm out. But I guess the wind kicked up, the fire jumped this, and it got these little twigs here, and that's what started it. And then when the wind blowing this way, it just swept through this whole area. I mean, it was the biggest darn little brush fire I ever saw. Like, you know, it wasn't controlled, but like, say if you were to control a little brush fire and burn your waste branches and brush and everything, I would have never just like lit this whole thing on fire. Maybe in winter time when there was a lot of rain. I mean, it rains a lot here in the summertime too, but it was kind of dry that night. It rained a couple of days before this happened. But anyways, that was the story about how our motorhome and everything, we could have died probably. My wife woke up to go to the bathroom. That's the only reason. And when she got up, she saw it was big old sun shining out here. It was a big old orange. It was lit up. And this was like at 2:15 in the morning, like I said. So it's a good thing she woke up, because my dogs were right there. They probably would have started. They weren't barking yet, but the flames weren't, like, it wasn't hot. It was getting kind of warm right here, but they weren't even barking yet. That was surprising, because their kennels were right here, like right there. Had their kennel right here, and this, you can see where the fire came all the way up here to the edge, where these rocks. It's all the way. That's like a couple feet away from them. But the wind wasn't blowing in their direction. It was blowing south, so they, you know, there was no. I mean, you could feel the heat a little bit right here, but it wasn't that bad. I guess they just, you know, my dogs were used to going to the beach, having pit fires, and, you know, they know to stay away from the fire and stuff, but yeah, they weren't barking yet, which was kind of surprising. And then when I let the dogs loose, and then I finally chained them up over here, because they're not that friendly. I mean, this guy's friendly. Kuma's friendly with people. He'll bark at people, but I don't. As long as they didn't do anything stupid, he's not gonna. He wouldn't. You know, he ain't gonna bark. He'll bark at people. But once he knows it's okay and I say it's okay, then he's calm. But Atlas, on the other hand, I cannot trust him. He wants to go after people. I don't know why. So I chained the dog zip right here. I already have these little rings where I can chain them up on these stumps that are out here. There's one there and there's one over there. But with the wind blowing in this direction, it was starting to get smoky. So I took them from here and I moved them over where that big tree is right there, where the BMW is. To the left, there's a big tree. We went over there. That's where we kept the van. BMW and motorhome was way down the road there. We just drove everything down there. The kennels were, I just drug those over there. And then I chained them up to the outside of the kennel. They were fine when the fire department was here. They were, like I said, Atlas, man, he was just sitting down there all looking at that fire. It was like 30 feet in the air, man. It was huge. In the first video, it doesn't really show how big it actually was, but it was freaking high. It even had a blue flame in the middle of that wood pile, like was probably about a 10-foot bluish flame. Looked like it was from a acetylene torch coming right up out of the middle of that twig fire. Fire department called it a twig fire. I couldn't believe it. So I was cool with that because they didn't think it was no big deal. They actually said that they were going to go back home and they were going to go to bed. And then they said we could go to bed too, but they wouldn't advise it. They said keep an eye on it in case the wind changes. The only thing they were concerned about is if the wind changed, and if they said it did and the fire started going down the other way, then to give them a call. Otherwise, they're going to go back home and they're going to sleep. So we just stayed up all night till, I don't know, 6 in the morning, just keeping an eye on it. That thing burnt. I mean, it burnt all day too. It was crazy. Because those are some thick tree logs in there that were like 20 feet long. It's just all piled up. Like whoever cleared this place before we got here, they just piled it up like how that other one is in the back. It's just all, I mean, I did cut a lot of firewood out of there in the past, but it was just getting to where you couldn't really get to it, and it was too high, and there's ticks everywhere in that thing. There were snakes coming out of there this summer, and my wife's scared of snakes. They weren't poisonous, they were just like little ribbon and garden snakes, but she wasn't having it, so I'm kind of glad that wood pile's gone now. I mean, I did kill a copperhead that was down there when I was making a dog pen, because we had to go back to California to get some stuff. So I put my dogs down there on the property so that nobody, would run into them. I put a chain link fence up around these trees. And when I was clearing it, I came across the copperhead. I probably would have let it go, but I just killed it because I didn't want the dogs. They sniff everything. I didn't want them getting bit. I just killed it real quick. Plus, I didn't want them later finding it or whatever, so I think that's my motto. If I see a poisonous snake on the property, I'm just gonna kill it, just for the fact that I don't want our dogs getting bit, or me or my wife accidentally getting bit by, But other than that, I normally wouldn't. I just leave them alone. It's not like, but I think for safety purposes, I don't want any poisonous snakes. There's a ton of them out here. I've only seen the copperhead so far. I guess they got rattlesnakes too. So that's how the motorhome almost got burnt down, and we could have probably died. I don't know. I probably would have woke up at one point, but it was crazy. I mean, we barely had enough time to get the dog kennels out of there. Nothing got destroyed. None of our stuff got burnt that was laying out. My rubber boots got melted a little bit, but they were okay. That was about the size of the damage, which was nothing. And I got rid of that big wood pile accidentally, which is great because it's all cleaned out in there now. That thing was nasty. Here's another wood pile right here. There's just all kinds of little varmints and critters come out of. They live in these things, so I don't really like having them that close to our campsite here. I mean, we're developing this property. It's not going to just be a campsite, but we got a Class A motorhome, so we got all the comforts in there. See, it happens when winter gets here. It gets does get a little cold here. Kuma. Stay down, do not jump.